Elden Ring. What is there to say about Elden Ring that hasn't already been said? It's hard. It's a hard game. But should it be? That's the question of today. Should Elden Ring have an easy mode? Established in 2022, Elden Ring is an action role-playing game developed by From Software and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment. It was directed by Hidetaka, I really hope I pronounced that right, Miyazaki, with world building provided by American fantasy writer George R.R. Martin. Stop playing with direwolves and finish the damn book, George. More specifically, Elden Ring is a soulslike, a subgenre of action-adventure RPG established by From Software's earlier work, Demon Souls, but we're not gonna get into that in this video. Elden Ring is set in the lands between, an awe-inspiring open world that is equal parts gothic and desolate, and equal parts breathtaking and beautiful. It is in this world that the player takes on the role of the Tarnished. The Tarnished are a group of exiles who were once blessed with the Erd Tree, the game's divine source of power and life, but lost that grace and were banished from the lands between. However, following the shattering of the Elden Ring, the game's inciting incident, the Tarnished return to the lands between and try and restore the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. I know this might be confusing, and that's a very oversimplified version of it. However, I'm not going to get into the lore because, one, we'd be here for hours, and two, I am just frankly severely ill-equipped to do that. However, I do recommend checking out these videos if you're curious at all about Elden Ring and its lore. It's what I watched to kind of figure out a little bit. I'll put it on the screen. For the sake of this video, the important takeaway is that Elden Ring is a Souls-like. It is characterized by its skill-based combat system, steep learning curve, intricate world design, deep lore, watch the videos, high base difficulty, focus on boss fights, and frequent and cruel player death. Although we may get into some criticism later, it goes without saying that the devs and designers at From Software crafted an incredible experience with Elden Ring. Although difficult and sometimes even tedious, the game looks stunning, and from a gameplay standpoint, all the mechanics work as the devs intended. The combat is smooth, and even with the high difficulty, character deaths rarely felt like they were out of my control, and was usually the consequences of my mistakes. The game has had post-launch support from the team, and has been patched and debugged. I never came across anything game-breaking in my playthrough, and the game definitely offers the player a full experience. There's so much content and things that the player can do and explore in the lands between. A quote from Software's Hidetaka Miyazaki. God, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm still in the process of making my ideal fantasy RPG. Well, Elden Ring is not quite it, it's getting close. I absolutely agree with this sentiment, and I can't wait to see what From Software puts out next. So Elden Ring is a good game. I think a lot of us can agree on that. I mean, it did win Game of the Year. However, it's a very challenging game. Should Elden Ring have an easy mode or adjustable difficulty? Or would that fundamentally ruin what the game stands for and represents? Part 1. The get good mindset. The phrase get good stems from gaming culture and is often used humorously or sarcastically. However, some veteran players live by it or use it in response to newcomers looking for handholding. It suggests that players should improve their skills through practice rather than relying on handholding or easier options. The phrase emphasizes the importance of personal effort and learning from mistakes. Many gamers believe that overcoming challenges independently is a key part of the gaming experience. It can be a way to challenge players to take responsibility for their own skills. While it might seem dismissive at times, for many gamers, get good captures a spirit of resilience and the satisfaction that comes from mastering difficult challenges. That's why the phrase often comes up in communities of games with high difficulty, like Elden Ring. But are there cons to the get good mindset and the communities that endorse it? I'd like to read an excerpt from Unwinnable, a website and digital magazine that focuses on a more critical and insightful approach to video games, rather than just news or reviews. This comes from an excerpt titled, "Let People Be Bad at Games." I see this kind of sentiment all over the video game sphere, particularly among the gamers. Derogatory. Lol, noob, get good, easy modes ruin the character's original vision. That kind of nonsense. It's tiring and frustrating to see at face value because, let's face it, nobody likes to be insulted or talked down to. But that's not the only problem with this mentality. It also has a tendency to lead to ideas like being bad at games makes you a bad person, akin to poor people are bad because they're poor, or being poor is morally failing. Or that the only people who are good at games are qualified to talk about, let alone critique, video games in the first place. Well, here's the thing. You don't have to be good at games to enjoy them. You don't have to enjoy games to talk about them, and you don't have to be good at them to talk about them either. Now, I understand where the author's coming from. Anyone should be able to enjoy what they like, and having a game with a high difficulty can isolate new or less experienced gamers. I also think that anyone should be able to criticize video games. Your experience will absolutely differ from mine, and discourse about perspective will always be important for any medium. The sentiment of being bad at games makes a person bad is not something that I've personally seen, but, you know, it's the internet. I'm sure, it's out there, which is ridiculous. The author, however, makes it clear that perspective of easy modes ruining the creator's original vision is nonsense, and I disagree. In a world filled with instant gratification and constant dopamine disposed at the press of a button, I think it's important to have games that make you earn it. Work for it. The current social gaming landscape is filled with instant gratification. Just look at the mobile game market, or how Call of Duty slowly turned from a first-person shooter that valued positioning and strategy to a 3-lane run and gun where every 5 seconds you either get a kill or get killed, respawn, and repeat. A social landscape that values engagement and retention over everything, mirroring our own world. The difficulty also ties into the narrative. The lands between is a broken, decaying world. The Erdtree's powers have faded, rulers are corrupt or shattered, and the very idea of order is in crisis. You're not a chosen savior with plot armor, you're just a tarnished. You begin weak, uncertain, just like your character. But as you master the game, you learn patterns and grow stronger. Your journey as a player mirrors your character's rise from exile to Elden Lord. Another cool aspect is that death is baked into the lore. The tarnished, given life by grace, gained a form of immortality, allowing them to return from the dead over and over. The loop of dying and learning from it is a metaphor. This idea that meaning comes through perseverance, not some divine blessing. So the only way your character fails is not if he dies, but if you, the player, gives up. So yes, I understand that it lacks handholding, and this can isolate an audience because of its difficulty and lack of easier options to progress through the game. However, this difficulty is important both in a social context and within Dark Souls context. Wait, we're not talking about Dark Souls. Part 2, Elden Ring. Elden Ring has one major difference from other Souls-likes, where you have to keep fighting the same boss over and over again to progress. Elden Ring is open world. The player is given far more agency, and because of this, you don't have to fight the bosses in any set order, and you can fight them at your own discretion. This means you can simply spend time leveling up your character, exploring, finding new, stronger items, weapons, armor, and optimizing your build to your playstyle. So when you finally go back to fight that boss that made you question every life decision you've ever made, you might find it a lot easier than you expected.
Typically in a Souls game, if you can't beat a boss, you just have to try again until you do it. Get good scrub and all that silly billy nonsense. But with Elden Ring, you can pop a marker on your map and explore elsewhere. Maybe find a better weapon, level up a few times, improve your armor, power up your health flask, get some more friends to summon, and then come back and show that boss who's boss.
I'd also like to touch on two in-game mechanics, Spirit Ashes or summons, and co-op. These allow the player to fight with the assistance of either NPCs or other online players. This can make battles significantly easier, as now there are multiple people attacking the enemy, which also splits the attention and the targeted attacks that the enemies throw at you. For some people in the Elden Ring community, using these secondary mechanics is considered cheating. Summonless is a frequently used term to describe completing the game without them, the proper way to beat the game. And as I mentioned earlier, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, regardless of skill, and discourse pertaining to these different perspectives will always have importance in the social gaming sphere. However, I disagree with this sentiment. The developers implemented summons and co-op into the game. They are not mods or obtained through any third-party means. The developers gave them to the player's disposal. So, in my opinion, the notion that you didn't beat the game the way the developers intended if you use these secondary mechanics is just wrong, because they designed the game to have them. So yes, I use summons in my playthrough, alright? It was my first time playing Elden Ring and my first ever Souls-like experience, so I found they made it for someone like me who lacks previously established skill, I could still progress and enjoy the game. You are allowed to disagree with me and dislike the video, and I'm allowed to summon my wolf friends to help me beat Margit. So although Elden Ring does not have a difficulty slider or easy mode, it gives the player the agency to explore and level up, and provides secondary mechanics in the form of summons and co-op to make fights more bearable, so even someone inexperienced like myself could defeat bosses after a handful of attempts. But as much as I'd like to end it here and say there's no benefit to having an option to decrease difficulty, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Part 3, Inclusion. This comes from gamestudies.org, and the article is titled The Get Good Fallacy, Challenge and Difficulty in Elden Ring. And I'd like to read a part of it here. Whereas the study focused on difficulty levels from the perspective of able-bodied gamers, further discussions on inclusivity and accessibility must include the context of people with disabilities. In the context of Elden Ring, the especially continuous issues potentially bearing people with disabilities to fully enjoy the game are connected with the multiplayer anti-cheat measures imposed by From Software, which effectively prohibit any third-party alternative UI and in-game control tools. These issues have already been raised by gaming content creator Stephanie Sterling, who voiced her concerns with the Get Good discourse, distracting from the much-needed implementation of inclusive gameplay options in the name of opaquely understood integrity of the allegedly intended design. Sterling, 2024. So as much as I love difficulty and the way Elden Ring implements it, the tools it provides the player to surpass it, and the overarching themes of perseverance, there are without a doubt repercussions to the game's lack of difficulty options and tools necessary for players of all walks of life. So as much as I love the game how it currently stands, I do think it would be improved if it had some kind of support, whether it be in-game or through third-party access to make it accessible to everyone. Maybe that's in the form of a difficulty slider or an easy mode, or maybe it just changes the UI, something to just make it more accessible to everyone, and if you don't want to play it that way, you don't have to. I'd like to end this video on the notion that a game is not perfect unless everyone can play it. That's far more important than a get good mentality. And lastly, to prove that Elden Ring isn't too difficult for me, here's footage of me, a new player, beating Melania, the hardest boss in the game, for the first time, only using what is at my disposal. Enjoy.
Alright, sounds good.
I mean, it would have been epic for a way to finish it, but I just don't see that happening. All right. Good start, good start.
Really good start, goddamn. Okay.
Holy shit, dude.
And that's how you dodge it.
I don't even know where to start with that, but okay. Damn it. Bastard. Okay.
God, she's so scary.
She really is. She's kind of the worst a little bit. Holy shit.
Get her. Get her.
Yes! Yes! We just cornered her. That was messed up.
Damn. Alright, so we're gonna run now, because she's gonna do like a nuke move.
Excuse me? That's the end. We did it. We beat Melania. See?
You could end
Easy.
it there. Yeah.
Easy game. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Oh, and this is just the ending cutscene. This isn't important. She's in a cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like a caterpillar. So we're gonna run away?
Yep, we gotta, or stay away from the middle. I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, run. Run it in.
Oh!
No!
Alright, that's it. That's the video. Thank you for watching.
Oh, you bastard.
Maybe this game should have an easy mode. I'm not gonna lie, I was really tempted for the video to end right there. I thought that'd be very funny. But, we talked about a lot today. We talked about game difficulty. We talked about the way different communities will regulate the way a game is played. We talked about player agency. And then we talked about inclusivity and game accessibility. Yeah. In conclusion, Elden Ring is a fantastic game built on the foundation of its world, mechanics, and difficulty. Although its difficulty is woven well into its story, and the process by which the player overcomes its obstacles or finds solutions to its problems provides a sense of accomplishment that has real-world application, along with the secondary mechanics available to the player to aid in their quest to become Elden Lord, there should be readily available systems that allow for players of all walks of life to enjoy and complete this beautiful game. However, I do not necessarily believe this must be in the form of an easy mode. The developers just have to integrate a system that allows the game to be altered to account for disabilities, or allow this integration through third parties. Then, not through an easy option, but an accessibility option, I think we'll have our perfect game. Hidetaki Miyazaki